Hey everybody, before you watch the video, click subscribe. Would you please, pretty please? It would help us at Soul Boom so much. Click subscribe. I talk about in the Baha'i faith, there's no clergy. There's no rabbis or priests or mullahs or gurus. So it's completely democratically elected. And there are elections in the Baha'i faith, but they are spiritual elections. So right now we're filming this in Agora Hills, California. The Baha'is of Agora Hills get together every year. There's no yard signs. There's no campaign contributions. They assemble in a room at a certain point every year, and prayerfully and through meditation, they pick the 9 people, the 9 Baha'is in Agora Hills that they feel have the most spiritual wisdom to lead the community. And on a silent ballot, without ever talking about it or saying, I think Veronica would be a great person, prayerfully put it in a hat, and the top 9 vote getters are the assembly. That happens then on the national level, and it happens on the international level. And, you know, I bring up the example of like, couldn't you do that in the town of Pancake Flats, Colorado? Maybe Pancake Flats, Colorado gets sick of all of the campaign contributions, the vitriol, the backstabbing, the negative campaign ads, the yard signs, the wasted money. And they gather at the local soccer stadium and silent ballot style meditation, they elect 5, 7, 9, 27, you pick the number of community leaders that are true public servants. And couldn't one envision that happening? Because I think that's remaking society together, and it's not eliminating elections. It's not eliminating democracy. It's a form of democracy, but it's a spiritually foundationed form of democracy. So that's the example that I use. I'm wondering if that's in alignment with Team Human.
Yeah, it's definitely in alignment with it. I mean, what I do with Team Human, I mean, the main point of that book is to convince people that we are even a team, right? Because we're living in a highly individualistic society where people are emulating people like Elon Musk, whose primary goal is to escape from reality before it breaks, right? And leave the rest of us behind, whether in their rocket ship or upload their consciousness or do that. So I try to convince people that individualism is itself a crock, you know, that you're not an individual, you're much more part of something, that anything that helps us socialize and brings us together is our friend, anything that distances us is kind of the enemy of human. And I do call for people to kind of get their feet back on the ground, to learn to make eye contact, you know, to be aware of the fact that when you have a conversation on Zoom, you can't see if the pupils are getting larger or smaller. You don't see if they're breathing, syncing up. So you don't
I'm really good on Zoom at pretending to be on a Zoom meeting while looking at the Knicks score. And like,
well, that's even worse.
So I'm pretending to be on my little screen. I'm like, but I'm actually reading about Jalen Brunson and how many points he scored. I'm good at that.
Well, at least you're a Knicks fan, which is important. But what happens on social media or on Zoom or any of these platforms is the person says they agreed with you, right? Oh yes, I agree with you. Great job, Doug. But the mirror neurons in my brain never fired because I didn't see the pupils. I didn't get the cues. So my body goes into a state of dissonance, of confusion. It's like, wait a minute, they said they agreed with me, but my body didn't get the oxytocin rush, therefore they're probably lying. So I leave the Zoom in a state of distrust rather than further, rather than cohesion, bonded or rapport.
Oxytocin.
So, So I'm sort of arguing that rapport is something that happens in real life when you actually find other people, and rapport is a prerequisite to the solidarity we need to act together for mutual.
So here's an idea, Zoom meetings, but they're in person.
Right. What would that be like? Right. And in person, then you end up like with a Quaker meeting hall or or what we in Occupy, you know, called the General Assembly, you know, where you're not just voting one side and the other and who wins gets everything, but you're actually trying to build consensus. But I guess I'm prescriptive, but not in Team Human. I'm not trying to set policy because there's this strong a techno-solutionist urge among a lot of my peers to come up with, well, how do we get people to blank? And even great social justice warriors, wonderful people, they're always, Doug, how do we get people to? And I'm saying, once you're saying, how do we get people to, you're in the wrong place. You're back above the people, manipulating them the way Mark Zuckerberg. How do I get people to spend more time on this? How do we get people? That's manipulation of humans. So instead, what I try to do is first, if I had a path, the embedded agenda of the Team Human book, which you can see if you kind of read between the lines, is the first thing I try to do is denaturalize power.
The Soul Boom Podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your stupid podcasts.